All right, here we are. I'm doing this pre-recorded, hopefully quick demonstration. I know that that's never worked before, but I know not many people are going to want to necessarily use this specific technique in this way and may not have this material, and so nobody's going to want to spend very much time watching it. So I have pre-prepared a few things, and I've made them a little smaller than we might normally so that I can keep it in camera range and stuff. Normally we'd go a little bit bigger, like this is, you can see the circle of the face roughly is my hand size. Normally we'd go a little more like life size, and that way you've got a little more room for bending. So I had to bend these up and make some real tight, curves and stuff, make it small, but it's, fairly generic. I wasn't going from a drawing, but once again, ideally, if you draw up a life-size, roughly contour drawing, frontal view and a profile view, then you can actually put the wires down against it. I've sort of pre-curved it to some degree as well. So there's a lot of fussing that would be involved to do this. I can whip them up fairly fast because I demonstrate them every year. And as I say, the more you kind of tweak some of these, just the little things, then the more it starts to look like the drawing. So this has just been twisted up to be a generic face to mainly show you a few connection techniques and that four wire, four descriptive wires. There they are. God, flapping them around all over the place here. Okay, I've got my rough cutting mat here today. Okay, so it's not going to go fast if I don't get going on it, right? And I've got a few extra pieces. So this is the wire that I had at the college and use, and it's called a 12 gauge wire. It's steel, and so it's, fairly firm, right? You see I can bend it there, by hand, but it holds, that. And, if I'm trying to get a bend that's much tighter than about that curve, then I start to need to make use of some other implements. And usually we have a pair of pliers around and a pair of side cutters. And so like to, get it tight at some of the tight corners, like on the corners of the eyes here, then you rely on sort of crushing it down with the plier, like I am there, and then opening things back up again so that you've got that sharp corner. But otherwise, I say most of the curving and such is done by hand, and you can get a little back and forth and get the nuance in there. But it is still a fairly stiff wire, and you can also, use your cutters carefully. Don't bite too hard with them, but that can give you, a more control of subtle little bumps and things like that, right? It'll also chew up the wire a little bit, but generally speaking. So that's just a random wire that I had here, and for cutting purposes, most side cutters like this, you've got the sort of a V side, if you will, and then this other flush-ish side. And if you're cutting, these, move this thing out of my way, watch your eyes, and working with lengths of wire, it's flipping around is probably a good idea if you have a safety goggle, if you don't wear glasses already like me, and you just want to watch that this wire doesn't come flapping towards your eyes or whatever. And when you're cutting, that generally you kind of hold the other side of the wire. Don't get your nip yourself with it, but hold the other side of the wire, because that's going to fly off. But if you just happen to bite it without holding the other side, it's usually going to go out that way that this V is. So the V, it's going to shoot out there, not towards me, right? So you can see I can go, there it went, and see it shot over to that wall, right? Hope my dog wasn't over there blinded. So normally to control that, you hold this other side and clip it and grab it if I'm cutting off a piece. Anyways, those small pieces, they kind of shoot out the V side. So that's just the one thing to know about the cutters. And, well, pliers, well, you can pinch yourself with those too. Anyhow, so, basically, let's get on with it. So I start with what I call the frontal wire, because that's just the round of the face. And I've sort of pre-curved a bit of chin in there, because I like to say, think dimensionally. So, I get, the shape of the face. If I had a drawing, I'd work from it, and I'd get more nuance at the temples and whatnot, and then get it to relax and sit pretty close, but with about an inch or more of overlap in this case. So this is the one place we use just a tension wrap tie, I call it, and to put that together. And then that'll give us the base that we can put the profile wire onto. So we've got a frontal wire and a profile wire, right? And they're going to be the two first wires of the face. And so that's where we employ another wire that I also keep at the college. It's thinner. You can see it's two is steel. You can see I've bent this off. I've taken it off of this snarl of wire, so it's got, whatever going on in it. And I use those for a couple of different attachment techniques that we'll get to, but the first one is basically this one here, and with your first wire, and this is usually the easiest to do. It's just an oval of the face, and then once you've got that relaxed and sitting in position, you can take a piece of wire. This is about 3 inches long or so, but it's a similar type of wire, and I'm leaving a bit hanging over the bottom so that I can squeezing with my fingers, and then just wrapping, right? Wrapping my way up in a neat sort of spiraling. And so that's just relying on the multiple, wraps and the friction that's created by sort of tightly wrapping this around. And also by the fact that once I attach the other wire, that'll also give it more stability. So I'm just kind of wrapping that out there. And then same thing with this one. This little piece of wire can go shooting out of there, like, so I'm kind of controlling it or holding my hand like this to, there, it didn't go flying quite as much as the other one. And there's that. I don't need to really cut that. I'm going to kind of just carefully bring it around with the cutter here and push it down. And that's where I can change over to the plier. Squeeze that. You don't want to poke yourself with that, pushing it down. But so, and you can even kind of rotate these a bit tighter as you go with the plier. But there it is, and I can kind of tug on that right now, and it's not sliding apart. And even if it is a little loose, as long as it generally holds its position until you get your next part in. So I say, if you've got it flat, usually it's a good idea to just pull that out, and that chin area becomes nearer the, somewhere back of the tip of the chin, or that's where it can be more of an aesthetic thing. So that one's ready. So now this one, then we, use our profile drawing and get a profile, and I've got lots extra here. This one's just about right. We'll see. And so then I'm going to cut this, and decide where this attaches to the chin, like if it's right at the tip or a little bit back, and the same thing at the top. But I'm just going to go with, right now, give this a little pull. I'm just going to go with this length here, because this next connection is sort of one of the main ones, and you saw it all over one of those examples. But they did theirs a little differently because they didn't know the trick to this, I guess. And it's, again, to get this friction of the wire against itself, because I'm going to be going around that one. And so they curled it, but then it would curl around that wire and then come up to the side so that they could kind of pull it and tighten it. But what we like to get, and this is basically from my sculpture instructor's obsession, so that's why I have it, is that we want to get a curl that just tightly touches to the, the other side here. So to do that, you want to get right in on the tip of the cutters. So half of my cutters have broken tips now at the school. That's a pain in the butt. So, but you can see, well, turn it around, is I'm grabbing it right as close to the end and right with the tip as I can get. And then, I'm not quite getting a grab. There we go. So you can see I've got it real close there. And then I'm going to do a sharp curl. That part's gonna flap. Oop, I didn't get all the way around the corner because this stupid long piece is hitting my phone again. But that's all right, is if you don't get it in the first part, again, you're just spinning that. And then, so you can see I've got a curl there, and then I'm gonna grab it by the back of the neck here, on the back side, and roll it back a bit. Because my objective is that now, and I often use the cutters, they give more force if you're careful with them. So I'm now there, going a little tighter. So you can see I, did a curl, then backed it off a bit, and my objective here is that when I tighten this, this length is short enough that it's not going to butt up against this side and then not be tight on the wire I'm wrapping it around. But that's why, as I said, if you can't quite get the hang of getting that real short corner, that's why the ones that we saw examples of, what they do is they just come around to the side with this curl. It comes up here, and then they can have it like a little overlapped instead of butting up right against the thing. And so that's, basically ready to attach to the top, and then we'll find our bottom spot and clip it. But I'm just going to clip some of this excess away because it's banging into everything. So there we go. And so now, notice I've put my tension wrap kind of up here. It's kind of out of the way. I mean, you're always going to see it, but out of the way, I mean, I'm going to be making an attachment up top here, down here, and some at the sides, like in the middle and lower section. So that's kind of in a spot where I'm not going to want to put a C hook, as we call these. And so basically, now, you can see I've hit it with my thumb. So this is just going to hook around, boot, like that, and then I'm going to squeeze it shut. Now, once again, I'm just going to hold it roughly in the position where I want it. There. And you could just use the pliers, but once again, as I say, with these, you get more force out of the cutter as long as you don't cut through. And I'm going on both sides here. So what we're trying to see is I'm reaching around it like this, and I'm getting on, once again, near the very tip of the curl, and on the back, the back of the neck there. And then, from somewhere near position, I am squeezing it down. And then, there we have it. So you can see, if I keep it in focus, or get it in focus, it's fairly snug. There's still a bit of a gap there. I can squeeze it even a little bit more with the plier or whatever, but I want to keep it, you see it's not rolling around or anything. But I'll give it another squeeze in a minute. But anyhow, now I decide, where do I want my chin here, right? So, like I say, I find I don't like putting the tip of that right on the tip necessarily, but that's, a personal thing. I like to go back a little bit, right? So it's kind of under, this represents a little under the chin. But, whatever the case. So, and then, you need a certain amount to curl. So I'm going to go from that spot and I'm going to cut it about there. It gives me a little bit of curl room, and maybe I'll go a little bit further back on the towards the neck, but whatever. Gonna cut that. And again, I'm doing the C curl and I'm curling it inwards. And there, again, tight. I know you're not seeing that much, but the tight curl that I just did, you can see it's kind of big, and so once again, I back it up so that I can get it so that when I squeeze that, it's not going to be too big to clamp onto that wire and hold on nice and tight and firm. So now, there it is. It's about the position, and you do end up doing, you know, getting a lot of like, now it's twisted this way, and now it's that way, and you're, you know, adjusting and fussing as you go, and you put things out of shape, and sometimes you often have to like grab that curl and retwist it or square it up again. And there, so now it's hooked around, and I'm going to use that same technique that I did up above, where I'm getting in on either side of it, both the back and the tip, and crunching it around there. Oh yeah, that's grabbed on there real good. Okay, and since I've been wiggling and worming at this, and there is room for it to tighten a little further, there we go. Yeah. All right, so there it is. There's the first 2 wires of the face. 17 minutes, good grief. So what I'll do is I'm going to stop this. I'll do it in 2 sections. I'll come back, you know, that way when I'm uploading it and whatever, or people are watching it later, they can say, okay, that's enough. I'll go. But this is what I'm going to do. Basically, we're going to attach this, and I'm going to use the C hooks on either sides of the eyes, and then I'm going to show you the one other tie that I didn't, and that's a cross tie with one of these smaller wires, where we'll put it across the base of the nose, and then we've got our lips, and that's like doing a puzzle because you want to get it in. So anyhow, we'll come back for part 2 of our wire bending thing.